Senior Commissioner, the Honorable Jerry Gormley, Chairman, Lawrence Wallace, and R. Yogi Hiltner, Deputy Commissioners. The members of the Athletic Control Board include Gary Shaw and Richard Harrison. The Chief Physician in attendance at ringside this evening is Dr. Frank B. Doggett, along with Dr. Charles E. Wilson and Dr. Dominic F. Coletta, Jr. The judges, Gene Williams, Vinnie Rainoni, and John Stewart. The timekeeper to bell is Lindsay Tucker. Counting for all the knockdown seconds, alternate referee Joe O'Neill. In the ring at this time, the man in charge of this scheduled 10-round middleweight bout, referee Rudy Battle. And now, my good friends, introducing the principals. First, in the blue corner, wearing the red trunks with the white trim. He tipped in at an even 165 pounds. This gentleman has 24 wins, 22 losses with 12 knockouts. From Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome aboard Randy Smith. And his opponent in the red corner, wearing the solid black trunks. He, too, weighed in at an even 165 pounds. Professionally, he has 16 wins, only 1 loss, with 13 knockouts. From the Germantown section of Philadelphia, ladies and gentlemen, here is Bernard, the Executioner Hopkins. Hopkins.
Rudy Battle will be the referee for this scheduled 10-round main event, and he'll call the combatants together at center ring.
Okay, gentlemen, I've given you both your pre-fight instructions. I expect a clean break at all times. No punching after the bell. Let's have a nice, clean fight. Good luck to both of you. Let's touch gloves.
Hopkins out of North Philadelphia, Smith out of Tampa, Florida, Charlie Neal, Elmer Smith, Neal and Hardy ringside for the scheduled 10-rounder. And Smith last fought January 26th of '92, lost a split decision. In his last 5 fights, he is 2-3. Throughout his 17-year career, his longest winning streak was 10. Meanwhile, Bernard Hopkins, with over 100 amateur fights, has done a yeoman's job in his short pro career. Round 1.
Right off the top, look for Bernard to establish a strong, stiff, battering ram left jab.
That's right. It will be a little bit of a challenge for him to get that done early on in this fight because he's in with a fighter who's a little bit rangier and crafty in his own right.
The whole boxing world is really a buzz about Bernard.
Ranked number quickness. Actually, we say coming in that he's ranked 5 in the world. The IBF ratings, which just being released this week, has moved him up to number 3.
That's correct, yes. And the recent WBA ratings move him into 10th place.
And this is a middleweight bout. You've got guys like Michael McCollum from Jamaica in that weight class. James Toney, Jackson, Nunn, Reggie Johnson, Steve Collins. How would you compare so far what you've seen of this young man, Bernard Hopkins, to some of the names I just mentioned?
I think that Bernard Hopkins, at this stage of his career, the difference between him and the fighter and those kinds of fighters are largely mental. I think he has displayed all of the boxing skills necessary, all of the physical prowess necessary for him to show. I think now that it's a question of him being able to develop the kind of mental acumen to get him into the next range, the next phase.
One of the things he did tell me earlier today was that young man you know very well, Meldrick Taylor,
yes,
is a young man who kept him motivated in this boxing game. In fact, we first saw this young man Hopkins fight back in July of '90 at Trump Castle here in Atlantic City when he knocked out a young man named Khalif Shabazz at 36 seconds of the first round, and at that time he was 4-1 going into that fight, and now he's 16-1. He lost his first professional fight and has been on a tear ever since.
Yes, changed management after that first fight and has been on a steady roll since. And incidentally, much of that career has been fought before the viewership of the BET television audience.
Randy Smith getting a little fancy. Almost backfired on him, though.
Smith's a veteran. He's going to employ all the tricks of the trade, and he's been in there with just about everybody. But I think one of the things that has set Bernard apart thus far in his rise is his quickness, as I spoke about earlier, head movement. He snaps his head left, snaps his head right quickly before he launches an attack, punches in combination, and never abandons the body. You'll always see him try to smash the right hand to the left kidney area. There he is again.
Right hand trying to go in the kidney. As we come to the end of round number 1, scheduled for 10 here in Atlantic City.
Well, fans, we have a few more guest viewers in attendance. First off, for middleweight, the 10th
Hardy, Elmer Smith. Let's look at it.
The fighting stockbroker, Hardy. And right next door to him is the Philadelphia Daily News columnist, Elmer Smith. And the BET the Philadelphia commentator, Charlie Neal. That's our opponents.
So you look at Randy Smith. Told me he just wants to survive. He says his strength, he feels throughout his career, has been he has tried to confuse his opponents.
Again, he's slick.
I asked him, I said, have you lost a step? He says, I feel, well, we always say that. I feel that I'm as quick as I've always been. You know, we don't ever want to admit that we slow down when we hit those magical ages and numbers.
As a fighter, in fact, as a man who's passed a couple of those magical ages myself.
This is round 2, scheduled for 10.
Hopkins establishing the jab through the course of the fight. Double jab, and it's more of a powerful jab. We watched Sewell earlier land jabs with abandon, but they were soft jabs that didn't bust the opponent up. You want to bust the guy up, bust his mouth up, bust his nose up in the parlance of boxing.
That's right. Hopkins lands more of a stiff jab and also a step 2 jab. When he lands that jab, he's looking to do something behind it.
Exactly.
How important is it for Hopkins to have a tremendous fight? When I say a tremendous fight, for this not to go the distance, for him to knock Randy Smith out in terms of what the world is looking at as far as him rising up to the top?
Go ahead, Leland.
Well, I was going to say, he has been in those kinds of fights before, particularly a fighter we saw here destroy a former contender, Ralph Moncrief, when he beat Michael Elijah Jr. here on BET. Moncrief was a guy who had been in with absolutely everyone and who had gone the distance with absolutely everyone. When he fought Bernard, he just couldn't deal with the pressure and the power, and Bernard was able to get him out of there in 2. So, you know, for him to have the fight where he's got to perform well, he needs to do that here. He's done it before. He's shown what he's about, and I think, you know, a knockout here would certainly be impressive for him.
I agree with everything except the conclusion. I don't think he needs to be particularly impressive, at least in the sense that he needs to get a knockout here. He's in with a fighter who nobody knocks out, and has been in with the best fighters in the world. I think it's going to be very important for him to get some rounds, for him to look good and execute his skills well. But I don't think it's necessarily important for him to get a knockout against this kind of a fighter.
Both fighters came in at 165 pounds. Randy Smith says one of the reasons he got started in the boxing was a guy named Muhammad Ali. That was a little low blow that time that caught Randy Smith, and Randy says, yeah, I'm okay. But Ali was his idol, Randy Smith's idol. As round 2 is about to come to an end. So round 2 is in the books. Randy Smith goes to his corner, and he doesn't look like he's in too bad a shape. He survived with the minimum amount of problems, except for that one low blow. It's about the only effects that he's felt so far. Let's listen in to his corner. There's the low blow that caught him. What's-her-name has had some personal problems too. Smith, he's had some managerial problems and things of this nature. And I guess that's the nature of the world of boxing sometimes.
Well, it certainly is, but for a career that has lasted as long as his, that'd be in the nature of almost anything. 14 years, you're not going to be with the same team very often.
Round 3, scheduled for 10. Hopkins comes out a little quicker this time.
Smith not unwilling to mix it up in there.
That's right. He mixes up very cleverly. I mean, he's a fighter that also is not really as in front of you as much as he looks to be. One of the things I'm looking for in this fight, Leland and Charlie, is that is the ability of Bernard Hopkins to make adjustments. Let's see if he has gone to school on what has occurred in the first round or two and come up with something different to counter what he has seen.
One of the things I see Smith doing is beautiful left from Hopkins. One of the things I see Smith doing is trying to smother the half uppercut, half hook of Hopkins by leaning into it and pawing down at it as Hopkins releases that left hook. He's taking some of the impact off of it. Yes. Hopkins consistently working that body there. Yes. Right hand to the kidney. Left hook up underneath. There's the right hand to the kidney.
Very good body punch there again. You got a warning for that right hand to the kidney earlier, but as you look at Randy Smith's trunks are about 2/3 belt.
More belt than trunk, huh?
Exactly.
Well, one of the things that Hopkins has been known for is trying to go to the body early of his opponent.
Slapping hook went over the head of
and then to the head, where a lot of boxers will go to the head first and then go to the body. He tries to go to the body first and then to the head.
He watches all the old films. He's a real fan of Sugar Ray Robinson.
Certainly is. And Marvin Hagler.
Told me today that one of his very favorite films was Marvin Hagler against John Mugabe. A fight that showed the mental strength of Marvin Hagler.
Certainly weathered opposition in the rain, 40 degrees outdoors out in Las Vegas. Remember that one?
I was at that fight, and what a fight it was.
Well, I guess that body can wear you down, especially a 35-year-old body, if you get enough punches there. And, of course, the strength of Hopkins seems to be his patience and, of course, his left hand. As we come to the final seconds of round number 3, scheduled for 10, here in Atlantic City. I'm Charlie Neal, along with Leland Hardy and Elmer Smith. Round 4 will be coming up in a moment. Round number 4. Scheduled for 10. Hopkins in the black trunks. Who's been basically the man who's taken the fight so far in the first 3 rounds. But you got a very game Randy Smith.
Very wily. He brings more than willingness. He brings a good deal of ability into the ring with him here.
And experience. And that carries you, I guess, a long way. You know how to survive. He's been a survivor. You know, one of the things we talked about earlier, he said, you know, I had to fight Michael Nunn with a 2-week notice. When Nunn was, you know, like in the prime back in 1986. He lost on a decision.
Tall task.
That's how they beat these stalking horses. People talk about the old days when fights used to be fixed. Nobody would fix a fight today. You know who your fighter can beat, and just to make sure it's not even, you call him up 2 or 3 days before the fight, and after
2 or 3 hours.
Exactly.
We had Mastrangelo come in here earlier today on 1 week notice against Hector Frazier. Case in point, acquitted himself well.
Nice body shot downstairs.
Yeah, it's the consistency of the body attack by Hopkins. And again, he studies the guys that are out there who have distinguished themselves in this weight class. Obviously, McCallum, a body snatcher who's relentless with his body attack. But one of the things I like about Hopkins, instead of the wide looping shots to the sides of the body, he positions the body so that he can drill a straight right hand to the kidney or step off to the left and throw a short left hook and come back with a hook to the head.
Absolutely, a great point. I mean, he's a compact puncher. He throws straight shots, and in with the hookers, he's going to beat him to the punch every time. His hands are fast, but they don't have to be tremendously fast because he's in close, taking up the distance, and as you indicated, throwing straight punches. And to land those punches, rather than loop them, he changes his position, and it's a wonder what you can do by moving 1 or 2 steps or half a step even sometimes to the left or right.
Huge left hook landed by Hopkins, which could conceivably have stunned Smith.
Almost an elbow shot there that time by Hopkins. And another left-right combination to the body and into the head. Working the body pretty good, Hopkins right now. Hopkins from a very rough area of North Philadelphia. I knew it very well. I grew up right across the street from him. We were talking today, and you know, when you survive 23rd and Diamond and the Raymond Rosen projects, you've done a great service to your community just getting out of there.
Is that where you got that big right hand, John?
End of 4 rounds. Scheduled for 10. Randy Smith. Well, we got a moment here. I got to say a special hello and a get well to a friend of mine, member of the Arlington County Police Department's motorcycle squad, who was injured in a motorcycle accident last week. So he's got a right hand in the cast right now. We'll say get well soon, Chris. Get that right hand going again. Randy Smith, 35 years of age, says this is it for him as far as trying to make that big payday. He's survived a lot of wars in the ring, and he's by the end of this year he'll be out of the boxing game as far as being in the ring. On the other side of the ledger, a very promising middleweight by the name of Bernard, the Executioner Hopkins. 16-1 coming in as we go to round 5.
Big short right hand right behind the ear of Smith. Nice right hand from Smith that actually got the respect of Hopkins.
Hopkins, one of the things Smith has been able to do is stay in close and tie up Hopkins, not let him get off one of those long-range missiles that can do a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
Another thing about Hopkins, he follows instructions so well from the corner. And I can assure you that he was instructed between rounds to come out and put a little bit more pressure on Smith as he's starting to fold. And as you see right away, he's putting the pressure on. A lot more punches, punching in bunches. And he's getting more comfortable. Whenever you see a fighter do what we call a jab step and fake a jab with a forward step and then throw the jab, he's gotten into a mode and real relaxed, and that's what Hopkins is doing right now.
You talk about these Philadelphia fighters, boy, we've seen some good ones over the years, and we're not just talking about the up-and-coming guys like Hopkins. We go back to the Joe Frazier era, and of course, Elmer, you wrote boxing for many, many years with the Philadelphia Daily News in the sports department there, and you've seen them.
And I've watched it since well before that, when we talk about fighters like Len Matthews, and you can go awfully far back. I see Willie the Worm Monroe here in the audience today, who gave us some great middleweight bouts. But the story of Hopkins with regard to Philadelphia fighters is that he brings a lot of skills, as many of them do, but will he have the mental toughness to carry himself to the final level, which is what has been missing in a few cases with some Philadelphia fighters.
Do you figure he'll be by the time the year ends, he could be fighting for that title?
I think he could be fighting for the title by the year's end, but certainly no more than 3 or 4 fights. And the interesting thing about the development of a fighter, Charlie, is that they either move forward or they fall back. You cannot mark time when you're a developing fighter. So it's going to be necessary for him to step up in competition, or before long he will begin to see his skills start to erode.
Hopkins is really starting to land meaningful punches. When you were talking earlier, Elmer, he landed a short right hand that really got a reaction from Smith. And he's starting now to put the punches together with the basics. Again, Hopkins is such a fundamental fighter. The jab, the double jab, the 1-2, 1-2 and a hook, the body hook. I mean, it's all basics, and he's really put it all together.
He said he would have liked to try it out for the '84 Olympics, but just didn't have the right people behind him at the time, and he never got the opportunity as round 5 comes to an end. We'll be back. On a little longer than a lot of people expected it to.
I think so, but really people who are who watch boxing carefully are never surprised to see Randy Smith go the distance. And I don't care who he's in with. He's been in with the best of them.
I've got Hopkins ahead handily, having won each round. Last one actually pretty commanding.
Come out with a good left body shot and a good left hook that landed another good left body shot. So he's kind of stepping up the power.
Following instruction from the corner. Bowie Fischer is probably one of the more able trainers in the world. He almost lives inside Hopkins' body in fights. And instructed him to come out and dig that hook to the body. Straight right hand to the other side.
Is that a happy camp, though?
Hasn't been a particularly happy camp in recent months. I think the relationship between Hopkins and Bowie Fischer remains intact. There have been some questions about whether or not the camp is as together as it has been on the managerial end. Nothing necessarily irreparable. It could be something that they patch up. But it's something that needs to be resolved, I think, before Bernard Hopkins moves on.
I knew you would know.
Hopkins really got into another mode now. Now he's on a stalk and attack mode. If you see his demeanor change, he's really now trying to get his man out. His demeanor changed midway through this round.
And again, remember, out of 17 professional fights and 16 wins, Hopkins has ended 13 of them by knocking out his opponent. So he's very much accustomed to what it takes to end it. Even though this one has lasted to the 6th round, there's still 4 more after this.
Once again, he got into the mode where he's so comfortable now. He's jab stepping, faking the shot, coming back with the sneak right hand. You see, once you start to jab step and fake with the shoulder, very comfortable and into a rhythm. And he knows that Smith has nothing to offer in the way of opposition to him at this point. That's what I heard him.
Yeah, and notice that he's executing good cutoff moves here. He's keeping his fighters back to the ropes and cornering him at 3 different points already in this round. But when he has his man cornered, you'll notice that there is an economy of movement there. He is not wasting a lot of movements. He's making his punches count, landing good body shots inside. Great body shot there. And again, the 4th time, Randy Smith has found himself in every corner so far.
Good left that time by Hopkins to the head of Smith. And Smith has survived 6 here at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City.
And he may survive 10. But this is still a very good performance for Bernard Hopkins so far. It's no disgrace to go to distance with a fighter of this caliber who has survived against the best fighters in the middleweight division over the years. And he's getting great work. He's executing his skills. I think this is one of the better fights for Bernard Hopkins, at least in the sense that it moves him further along.
Let's look back at some of the body shots taken by Randy Smith in round number 6. Body and head shots. Of course, Randy working inside, staying close. And sometimes, I guess, if you shorten up the distance between that your opponent has to punch, the body shots aren't as effective as they could be if they come from a further distance away.
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I mean, I think that some of the most effective body punches are thrown in close, very short punches in compact arcs, where much of the power comes from the ability to transfer the weight when throwing the punch.
I mean, one of the most devastating punches, certainly of all times, of course, was Joe Louis, who was really known for the 6-inch punch. He had a
call it the 6-inch punch, huh?
6-inch punch. Tremendous ability to transfer the weight, and from the standpoint of physics, generate the maximum force at the end of the right hand. And Hopkins is certainly learning to do that with every passing fight.
So when we hear of a man fighting a technical fight,
he is a very technical fighter.
He has studied that physics very well, huh?
The principle of the lever arm.
That reminds me so much of a barefooted kicker in football, who says the reason I kick barefooted is because the energy is transformed from the skin right to the ball, more so than if you put a sock or a shoe between it.
I'm not so sure I ascribe to that theory, but they must know.
Smith rocked back a little bit on the ropes, but comes out. And he's still hanging in there. Taking some uppercuts, some body shots from Hopkins with 1:20 left in round number 7. Scheduled for 10 here at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City.
Hopkins really is trying to put some mustard on those shots now. Shooting the right hand, coming back across with the left hook. I'm sure Bowie Fischer would like to see him double the hook, and there's Bushy imploring him to come forward. Elmer, as you said, it's an excellent fight for Bernard at this juncture of his career. A guy who's very durable, knows all the tricks. And there's a couple of guys that have been in the resume of Hopkins that have been appropriate for him such that he can learn from them, be eclectic, and take it to his next contest.
And the important thing that I think comes out of this fight for Bernard Hopkins is that one of the questions he has to answer is what happens when you don't get the knockout against a fighter. Do you get frustrated? Do you start to get loose in your approach to the fight? So far, Bernard Hopkins has shown himself to be the kind of fighter who keeps tight, who does the things that he needs to do, is patient, but not to a fault.
2 nice shots landed by Smith, to his credit.
It'll be interesting to hear the strategy of the winner at the end of this one, especially if it goes a distance. 7 are already in the bag. We'll be back. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, round 8 coming up. Joe Frazier is here. Smoking Joe.
One of the all-time greats.
And one of the all-time greats, as you said.
Oh, huge right hand. Huge right hand. And look at him, right back to the body. Right back to the body. Double jab. All the same basic fundamentals. Right hand to the kidney. When he's not using the right hand, it's right by the chin. Protect himself at all times. Battering ram jab. Hear the voice of Bowie Fischer again. As if he's got a mic in his mouth so loudly.
Good body shots, left-right combination. Oh, those are basically dancing off the elbows. I don't think they landed as much as they sounded that they might have landed.
That second one was right in the solar plexus.
Good left jab that time by Hopkins.
Incredibly durable Smith.
He certainly is.
He's given every possible credit for his performance here tonight.
And a right that caught Smith. Enough jab by Hopkins. Right uppercut.
You talked earlier about Rash needing to patent his skin. I think maybe they need to go into a joint venture with Smith and Rash on that one.
I'm telling you, these guys are blessed.
I guess Randy Smith, when you talk about retiring, he's saying, why? Why am I taking these beatings? I mean, I'm surviving, but I'm also taking these beatings, you know?
That's right. I mean, he on the other hand, he is very good at the technique sometimes called rubbernecking. He does not accept the full impact of some of those punches.
Let him go.
Under a minute left here in round number 8. Scheduled for 10. Charlie Neal, Leland Hardy, and Elmer Smith ringside at Trump Plaza, the Imperial Ballroom in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Randy has yet to land any punch in this fight which we have felt did any harm whatsoever to his opponent Hopkins.
Well, Hopkins is really well focused. Randy Smith has landed some pretty good punches, and against a lesser fighter probably would have had a lot more impact.
And a good right by Smith as round number 8 comes to an end. Randy says, hey, I got you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman who just walked in a little late, and he's here nonetheless. Sitting next to promoter Butch Willis,
Randy Smith.
the former heavyweight champion of the world, Smokin' Joe Frazier.
Smokin' Joe just announced to the crowd.
One of the all-time greats.
Thrillin' Manila. What else could you remember?
Barry White joins us here.
Round number 9. All 8 so far have been, without a doubt, in favor of the executioner Hopkins. This is round 9, scheduled for 10. This is a middleweight bout. You have Hopkins, who has moved up to number 3 in the IBF, and he really caught Smith with a left that time. But each round, he has come out with those types of shots. It just hasn't had a lot of effect.
Well, at least not in the sense that he has wobbled his man, but they've certainly had a lot of effect in the sense that the judges can tell that those are powerful punches.
Beautiful left hook from Smith.
And Smith just says, hey, it hits, but that's about it.
Now, Bernard Hopkins is a fighter whose style puts him in a position to get punched sometimes. There are some of the great fighters are people who got hit because they use their aggressiveness and their slickness to set things up. When you're inside, one of the things that's going to happen to you is that you're going to get punched. Sugar Ray Robinson was a fighter as slick as he was who took his share of punches.
Now, here, the way they were positioned looked like a perfect opportunity for Bernard to throw what we call a Witherspoon right hand. And there is one right there.
Yeah.
Position your body with your head and shoulders just over the left shoulder of your opponent. Come back with a big right hand. There it is right there again. Perfect opportunity to throw a Witherspoon right hand.
And when he sets the throw to Randy Smith, is probably going to take it off of his shoulder. He will probably curl in and take it off of his shoulder. And the perfect counter for that right hand is a right hand.
You know, one of the things that Hopkins has shown that he's been able to do is go on his ability to box and slug versus the experience that a lot of boxers has, because of course as a professional he hasn't been in the ring that long.
No.
Under a minute to go here in round number 9.
Meaningful short punches from Hopkins.
Hopkins has to be thinking, boy, this guy's old man's tough.
Yeah.
You know.
But at the same time, he has to be satisfied with the kind of work he's getting today.
He is getting some work. You need that every now and then.
And you need to know that you can go the distance at a tough pace. He's kept up a good pace. He's accepted a certain amount of punishment, landed a lot of punches, and he needs to know that he can do this.
And he doesn't look weary at all.
He's
in great condition.
Yeah, he has fought 10 and 12 rounds in the gym, and it's not the same, but it does have implications for endurance. Notice the little cutoff move that he made there. Randy Smith was wise to grab at that point.
And Randy Smith has inspired the hammer. He's too legit to quit. Let's watch what happens. Of course, Hopkins backing Smith into the ropes. Throwing a series of combinations there. Tenth and final round. This is the main event of the evening. Middleweight, Hopkins in the black against Smith in the red.
You look at Hopkins come out for his final round. He had a certain look on his face as he stood up that he felt so comfortable, having gone 9 of the 10. It's a great condition.
Right hand.
Beautiful right hand. Mouth is closed at the start of the round. Breathing through the nose only. There's a lot of running up hills. In great condition.
And notice his footwork there. When he has his man against the ropes, he positions himself in a way that Randy Smith can't really get away.
But Randy keeps coming out. Randy keeps coming off the ropes.
He comes off the ropes, but he has been chased around the perimeter of the ring for much of the round. Again, back to the ropes.
You're holding. Stop punching. Let him go. Watch your heads.
Good left body jabs by Hopkins. Nice left-right combination.
It would appear to me that nothing will faze Randy Smith. Those shots would have felled any other man. Hopkins working like he really wants to get his man out in the final round and finish with a flourish.
Break out. You're holding.
It's not going to happen. But he has certainly acquitted himself well today.
Good left combination. Left, right. And Hopkins again. Extending himself.
There's an opportunity to sneak the right hand over the top. And I'm sure he'll study the films. Perfect opportunity to sneak the right hand right over that shoulder.
And one punch that we have not seen very much from Hopkins today is the uppercut.
He tried it a couple of times, but it didn't seem to have much effect.
Yeah, it's largely a matter of positioning, and he's normally, at the position that he fights in, he's normally in a pretty good position to get that punch off. For whatever reason, it has been conspicuous by its absence from his arsenal tonight.
Beautiful jab.
Here's one.
No holding. All right, break.
Rudy Battle could not have had an easier night's work than he did tonight.
Try it.
No, he didn't have any problems with the fighters in there. As we go down to the final 14 seconds, let's see what happens when they bang the gavel. Let's see what Hopkins does if he tries to finish this last 10 seconds off. Looks like it's going to end uneventful. Good 10-rounder. Hopkins and Smith. And we'll be back with the decision from the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City in just a moment. Coming up, Hopkins against Smith. Let's go to Ed Darien.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Imperial Ballroom here at the Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino on the boardwalk in the boxing capital world of Atlantic City, New Jersey, all three judges, Gene Williams, Vinnie Rainoni, and John Stewart, each score 190 for the winner by unanimous decision, Bernard, the Executioner Hopkins.
So Bernard Hopkins' record goes to 17-1, and it's a unanimous decision. Not much of a problem there, as you said. Out of a possible, 300? It was a unanimous.
He got them all.
Yeah, he got them all. 190. Unanimous decision, and
although the fight was not as lopsided as the score, Charlie, it was a good fight in that he was forced to execute his skills. I thought he did it very well.
All right, well.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And now from Trop World Casino and Entertainment Resort here in Atlantic City,